Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM. Live from Boo Rays in New Orleans and Hudson Oaks, the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
Hello and welcome to Boo Rays of New Orleans here in Hudson Oaks for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. Boo Rays of New Orleans providing the best in authentic Cajun food, and they also have other Westoplex locations in Lake Worth and Crowley. And our two presenting sponsors are H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. Another successful playoff weekend for both baseball and softball. Bearcats and Lady Cats keeping Austin in their sights. Softball moving on to the 5A Division I Region I Championship. Baseball is playing in the 5A Division I Region I semifinals. Lady Cats softball, no problems with Amarillo last Wednesday in the regional semifinals. An 11-0 victory in Iowa Park. The Lady Cats are now 28-3. Now the anticipated state quarterfinal meeting or regional final, however you want to look at that, is with Birdville. Finally, they get a best-of-3 series. Game 1 is going to be at 7 o'clock on Thursday. That will be at Aledo High School. Game 2 is at 7 o'clock on Friday at Birdville. And then if there is a deciding third game, it will be at noon on Saturday over at Kennedale High School in southern Tarrant County. And by the way, the Lady Hawks are 30-4. Baseball, meanwhile, they handled Arlington Heights last week in the area round, swept the Yellow Jackets by scores of 12-2 and 5-1. Great starting pitching by Grayson McKelvey and Devin Miller. Each tossed complete games. Now their turn to go to Iowa Park to play Amarillo in the semifinals. That does sound familiar, doesn't it? But game 1 will be 7 o'clock on Thursday, and then these teams are going to try and get this finished by Friday. Game 2 starts at 1 o'clock, and then a deciding third game would follow if they need to do that. Aledo is 27-7. Amarillo is 24-11. Here in this podcast, another 2 segment for you. We rotate, and baseball goes first with head coach Chad Berry and junior second baseman Landon Barnes. Huge series for him against Arlington Heights. Then we'll recap it all with softball head coach Heather Myers and junior second baseman Delaney Rosser. First off, with the baseball Bearcats, and Coach Berry and Landon Barnes joins us. And Coach, first of all, congratulations. I think that's how you would like to draw up every series, where you have tremendous starting pitching, complete games with both Grayson and Devin Miller. Of course, Grayson's complete game was a 5-inning run-ruled situation there, but still, you didn't need the bullpen in either one of those games. Overall thoughts on just how that all went down?
I thought we came out with a lot more focused. We had talked about that after the first round series. We felt like we kind of overlooked Birdville a little bit, and I told them, this team we were playing this week had the pitching to be able to beat us and compete with us if we weren't ready to go. And I think they took it to heart, and they came out ready to go. And I mean, it showed on Thursday night. We came out of the gates quick and kept the pressure on them all night. Yeah, you just answered my second question here about judging by these scores. It looked like your team, if you will, caught its breath from that series against Birdville. Like maybe they played like they had all season. Was that the team that you recognized last Thursday and Friday that you had seen February, March, and most of April? I thought we saw a more complete effort. I felt like we started putting things together, putting together inning after inning and keeping pressure on their pitching and their defense a lot more consistently than I'd seen us do in a while.
Blowouts are one thing, and of course you'll take them all the time, which is what you did in the Thursday opener at your place. But maybe the thing I liked about what you all did in that series was the second game at Heights over on Friday, where you all get the big hit from this man to your left, Landon Barnes, the RBI double, and then it kind of turns into a 3-run inning where you take a 2-1 lead into a 5-1 lead. And that's kind of a situation where a team meets the moment there, handles it, takes advantage of the opportunity. And I think you said this whole thing started with 2 outs in that inning.
Yeah, it was, we had gotten off to a good start, scored 2 in the first and kind of sat on it. And then they had cut the lead in half around the 4th or maybe 5th inning. And I told our kids, you got to keep pressing. We got to keep continually putting pressure on them, get guys on base, make that third out elusive. And, I thought Blake did a great job. He came up right after 2 guys had gotten out, and, he made that third out elusive. He got a fastball away, and he drove it into the right center alley, and then was standing on second with 2 outs. And then Landon came up and did what Landon's been doing all year. He found a fastball away and drilled one into the right center gap and put us up 3-1, and then we followed with 3 more singles right after that, and were able to score, 3 runs in the inning and really pretty much end that series. I think it kind of took the wind out of their sails, especially when the third run scored and they were now down by 2 again.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could see the writing on the wall, what was happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to get one other run on the board, like when you all stretched it out to 3-1 with his RBI double and Landon's double there. But then when you're able to make it more of they basically have to get the bases loaded and then try and hit a grand slam in order to, if you will, or just kind of to keep things going. So when you need multiple base runners when you're down to 3 outs, that really does kind of change the psyche for both teams, I think.
For sure. I think if it's a 2-1 ball game and they're batting, I mean, they can take a chance on if they get a leadoff guy on and bunting him over and stuff. And so with the lead that we were able to build going into the bottom of the 7th, it kind of took them out of being able to do anything but hit their way into an inning. And, most teams are not going to do that against our starting pitching.
Yeah, not at all. Not the way this duo has been going this year. So for Landon Barnes this year, Landon hitting .383, has 31 hits so far, an on-base percentage of .440, 3 home runs, 21 RBIs, and you also mix in 7 doubles and 3 triples, which is tied for the lead. And Landon, huge series for you. You went 4 for 7, 3 RBIs, and we talk about that big hit that you had in Friday's clinching win. What did you see in yourself from that approach, not only in that series? Let's talk about the series first, and then that big hit that kind of built that inning going on Friday.
Yeah, I feel like this series we're just trying to really get jobs done, score runners in scoring positions, get bunts down, things like that, because I think that's just a really big factor in games like that. So just tried to stay middle, go the other way, and get that RBI, but I think just that was my approach the whole time.
Okay. And then as far as just, they had some really good starting pitching. Coach Barry has talked about that. So what was the key to your success as you were preparing for this staff from Heights?
Yeah, we knew that going into this they had really good pitching. They had that Morgan kid and that Mitchell Carpenter kid. They had good fastball, had good off speed, just had to react to that off speed. And throughout the game, I feel like we got a little bit better at that, and we saw better pitching. And, yeah. Okay.
And then for you this year, just in terms of just the way your season has been going, just talk about overall how things have been going and how you feel like, you've been getting into this group. We just read off all of your numbers here, and you're hitting in the 3 spot. So just talk about that.
Yeah, I've just been trying to stay relaxed, just have fun. Baseball's a game. Just have to remind myself that sometimes and stay relaxed and just have fun out there. Okay, so just as I was talking to Coach Barry, I want to ask you about how was this series against Arlington Heights different than facing Birdville? I mean, was it kind of like what I described earlier about catching your breath, or how did you see that between just, because those first round games can be kind of interesting. There's that new kind of pressure, like saying, man, we're in the playoffs, we got to win, and then now once you get through that first round, you can kind of relax a little bit. But what was it like for this team? I feel like that first round against Birdville kind of gave us an idea of what was happening. I felt like we were a little shaky against that Birdville series, and we went 3 games with them, and I felt like we could have played a lot better. And I think going into the series with Arlington Heights, we definitely grew from that first series with Birdville and did a lot better of jobs, and just bats were a little bit better. So I feel like we learned a lot. All right, Chad, I've often looked at the playoffs as like the first 2 weeks are kind of the opening round and the area round have their fun stories, surprises, teams that might have come out of nowhere to pull off upsets, things like that. But then when we get to this round, the semifinals, it takes on a different tone. Prize is a little bit closer. Do you sense that as well? Because it's like, to use a phrase, it's getting real. And so how do you see that now, since we're through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs and you can kind of see it a little bit closer, and your goal is really more touchable, if you will? I think the kids, they notice that they're like, wow, we're making a run. And I think they also realize, and we tell them all the time, that once you get to this round, anybody can beat anybody. Everybody's good. There's no turkeys left. It's kind of like the football cliche after Thanksgiving, no turkeys left. So you get to this round, everybody's here for a reason. There's 16 teams left around the state, and so all 16 can play baseball at a very high level. And so it comes down to executing situational stuff, playing great defense, getting good pitching, and coming up with key hits at the right time. Yeah, it's about just making sure that you're mentally locked in, and that whatever adversity hits you,
regardless if it's a one-game series or in your case it's best of 3, that you just kind of learn to you've got to keep going regardless of how good it is or how bad it might be or something like that.
Oh, for sure. It's a lot of times it's who can bounce back from an error and who can capitalize on another team's error and make them pay for it and little things like that. The teams that do that are the teams that move on.
All right. And so, of course, this was the round last year where you got stopped by Argyle. That was a tough series for you guys because they unfortunately had pitched a couple of shutouts. Is there anything like a rally cry for something like that because of what happened last year? Or do you just say, that was last year, this is this year, even though there's a good number of guys that are back from last year's team?
You know, I think that the best thing is that there are a lot of guys back from that team, and so they understand where we're at right now, and they understand what's at stake. And, you know, I think they're a year older, another year under their belt, more experienced. And, you know, I think they are going into it with a different mindset of we're not just glad to be here. Mm-hmm. We expected to be here, and we expect to be here again next week.
Okay. And then, Landon, how do you see that because of what last year's experience and the season ending in the regional semifinals and now? Of course, last year was the quarterfinals because we had the different playoff format. But just going to the third round, and then how does this club look at this thing now because of what's in front of it?
Yeah, I feel like we have good role models as leaders for the seniors. They're really kind of just showing us the way and how things go and how much of a big deal it is because I think we're starting to play for each other more than ourselves and because we know the main goal and what we all want and the main prize. So I feel like the seniors are doing a great job leading us to that way because they have more experience.
Okay. And then let's talk about the scouting report on Amarillo. The Sandies, for those who don't know, they beat Abilene in 3 games in the opening round 2 weeks ago. And then this past weekend, they swept El Paso El Dorado in the area series. What's the report on the Sandies, Coach?
They've got strong pitching. They've got a right-handed freshman pitcher he doesn't look like a freshman. He's upper 80s. Got a good slider. I think he mixes in a changeup as well. And then they've got a senior left-handed pitcher that doesn't throw as hard as the freshman, but he's a competitor. He's left-handed, so that he already has an advantage. And he mixes up his pitch as well. And I think they've been there, done that. They've been here a lot as well. They've got a good program over there. Coach Johnson does a really great job year in and year out over at Amarillo, and so them being in this round is nothing new for them either. So they're not gonna be, starry-eyed or anything like that.
Right, and it's always been kind of interesting here throughout this year where Aledo and Amarillo keep running into each other. They did so in the volleyball playoffs. They did so obviously last week with. Softball, and now this your turn with them. That's kind of the way this bracket goes. But are you seeing you can see the trend there? That's kind of interesting.
I think it just says a lot about both programs athletically, up and down throughout their entire athletic department. That both schools do a great job with all their sports.
Mm-hmm. It is for sure. And then, Landon, how do you see, just as you all have started to study up on the Sandies, what's kind of your impression of them?
Yeah, I think they're both great pitchers. Looked into them a little bit. I feel like they're the same pitching we've been seeing a little bit, same speed, good off speed. So I think we should just keep the same approach and keep doing what we're doing at the plate. With
a left-hander like this, with a senior left-hander that Coach Berry was talking about, is the key to make sure that you and he's going to probably throw a lot of change-ups and things like that, or just breaking balls, things like that, is the key to kind of make sure that you can take him the other way. Because if you try to roll over your wrist, you're going to have a weak ground ball to short or weak ground ball to third. So how do you look at something like that?
Yeah, I definitely just try to stay back, maybe work on things like that at practice in the cages and set up machines like that. Definitely just stay back and keep that middle away approach that we've been doing.
All right. And Coach Berry, we were talking about as you all found out that Amarillo was going to be your opponent, that you thought you had Abilene Christian as your spot. Turns out that it seems like it's going to be between La Mesa and Jacksboro. I guess they had it ahead of you or something like that. So just tell us about how that kind of didn't turn out, but how Iowa Park did turn out to be the location.
Well, it was we both wanted to go to ACU and play, and they had said, yeah, it should be good. We've got a couple of teams on the list in front of you. If they win, then we may have to make some changes. And then, lo and behold, both teams won. And so I think Argyle and Lubbock Cooper are playing there, and La Mesa and somebody else is playing there. And so the only time slots they had available for us were like 4 o'clock on Thursday, 10 a.m. on Saturday, and then 7 p.m. Saturday night. And I was like, not doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm not hanging out in Abilene all weekend
right.
to play and rest and play and sit. And so Coach Johnson called me and said, "What do you think about Iowa Park?" And I talked to another coaching friend of mine that had played there, and he said it's a great facility, really nice field, and it'll be good. It'll be a good facility for you guys to play at. It's all turf, and so I kind of looked it up online. I was like, wow, it looks like a really nice facility, and so I said, I'm good with it. Let's go.
Yeah, and you might have some karma left behind from the softball team from last
week.
That's
what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping they left some runs behind for us.
Okay. Landon, you were talking about playing behind that kind of starting pitching with McKelvey and with Devin Miller. What's that do for you as a defender, just in terms of just doing your job? Because they appear to work quickly. They throw a bunch of strikes.
Yeah, they've definitely been doing great all year. Definitely efficient. Definitely both in zone. I mean, it's awesome playing defense behind them. Your job's very easy. They go out there, they do a job. They're always focused. They work hard. I just think we have a great bullpen. We have good relievers. I think we just have the guys to go the way. So I think they're doing a great job this year.
What is different about this defensive team this year in your estimation?
I feel like this defensive team this year, I think we're all on the same page. I feel like everybody's doing their job. I feel like we haven't made that many errors this season. I feel like everybody's playing their position. Yeah, knock on wood.
Everybody's knocking on wood right now. So
yeah,
okay. We didn't get a knock on wood out those tables out there. So anyway, all right, we got one.
Yeah, I feel like we've moved some guys to different positions, and I feel like they've definitely done a job, and I think that's great for our team.
Okay, so let me ask you, just because you're a junior, you're obviously trying to get into the recruiting mix. So what's going to be your summer plans in terms of playing ball and trying to make sure that maybe some schools will start taking a look at you and that sort of thing?
Yeah, maybe just definitely reaching out to some schools. Just switched over to a new summer ball team. Maybe get my name out there, go to a couple showcases. But
okay, is it going to be busy with tournament plays every week, or how's that going to be set up?
Yeah, usually tournament play throughout the summer. And then just showcases here and there, different colleges. But other than that, nothing much.
All right, and as we wrap this up, Coach, just what do you want to see from this team this week? Do you want to see kind of a replication of what you saw against Arlington Heights? Or does this round of the playoffs and the opponents, as you said a few moments ago, everybody's really good at this level now, so that you have to really pick it up? What do you want to see from this group this weekend?
Take another step forward. I think we played, I thought, really well last weekend, probably the best series we've played in a long time. But at the same time, I still think there's still room for improvements. There's still approaches at the plate that can be better. I felt like we popped up and fouled out a few times on Friday, a few more times than I would like to see. There was one inning where I think right after they had scored and made it 2-1, we let the pitcher out of the inning on like 6 pitches. We were trying, up until that point, we were making him work 15, 20 pitches an inning, and, we let him kind of get back on track with that. And so little things like that. I want to continue to keep the pressure on pitchers, make them extend their innings, make them throw more pitches, and kind of stay in a rhythm like that to where there's no room for them to take a breath and breathe.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, and I think just driving up their pitch counts, too, would be a huge thing for sure for you.
Get into the bullpen as quick as possible.
So once again, the Bearcats are going to be on the road at Iowa Park, as we have talked about. This is a best-of-3 series that will start on Thursday. That'll be a 7 o'clock start, and then again they'll start game 2 at 1 o'clock. And by the way, just real quickly here as we wrap this up, instead of going Thursday, Friday, Saturday, why the 2 games and then the third game to follow? Do we have a prom situation there with Amarillo?
Amarillo has a prom.
Okay.
They have their prom Saturday, and so
okay.
Coach Johnson was like, we can flip forward if we need to, and I was like, no. I said, in years past when Aledo used to have their prom on Friday, all the coaches around here usually did a really good job of working around us, moving up games, moving back games, and I said, I'm going to return the favor as well. So I said, I'm good with going Thursday into Friday.
Yeah, and that builds a lot of goodwill, too, in terms of down the road, too, because you never have enough friends in this industry, that's for sure.
100%.
Absolutely. All right, Landon, thank you very much for being with us, and Coach, good luck to you all this weekend. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Head coach is Chad Berry, and then to my far left is Landon Barnes. Let's hear it for these 2 men as the Bearcats continue their baseball season in the playoffs in the regional semifinals against Amarillo. Gentlemen, thank you so much. All right, real quickly here, we want to tell you that this podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. NI Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda, head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family owned and operated for over 30 years. Stick around, second segment coming up with the softball folks. You're listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, back after this timeout. Back here on the Aledo Coaches Show podcast as both Bearcat baseball and Lady Cat softball preparing for their next round of the playoffs. Before we begin our second segment, this one Aledo notable for you. Bearcat spring football game is this coming Wednesday at Tim Buchanan Stadium. The freshmen will get it started at 5 o'clock, and then the varsity and JV roughly will get going at about 6:30. And the Hank FM van will also be out there as well, so check that out. So we are at the end, and you know it's really deep into the season when I don't have very many notables left, and baseball and softball are still going. So we are pleased to be joined by softball head coach Heather Myers and junior second baseman Delaney Rosser. Thank you both for being here. All right, so Coach, you guys got the jump. You all were dominant. Taylor McKean with a one-hitter. She also allowed one walk, and then your offense on display with 3 homers. Kylie Pollock, Marina Taveras, Tempe Perry. This was over pretty quick, it sounded like.
Yeah. It was very fast. I told the coaches, like, holy crap, we're done. It was fast.
You surprised it went as fast as it went, and it was overwhelming, I guess, to use a word for you like that.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting that. I mean, they shut us down in the first inning, and then we scored 1 in the second, and then exploded with a 5 in the third and the fourth. And so, you know, like, we try to get people in whenever it's a score like that, and it was just on us before we even knew it. So that was difficult for me. I don't like not getting kids in.
I understand that. Delaney, for you all this year and the way that you guys have gone about these playoff games, when you get into and I've asked all of your other teammates about this who have joined this podcast, but when you play these one-gamers, what's the sense of urgency or what's the sense of calmness that you have to play something like this?
You definitely have to, just go over everything in your head and just know that you can trust your team and everything. It takes a whole team to go out and win a game. So you have to trust your teammates, trust in yourself, have a good mindset going in.
All right. Now, I have another stupid stat to tell you about this softball team. The run differential in these first 4 playoff games is 39-3. Maybe that doesn't surprise you because how this team has been playing all year. But what's your reaction to that when you hear that? And those are a couple of shutouts. And I think the 2 runs you gave up to Burleson were just at the end because it was 13-0 in that game.
It's surprising. I don't ever look at stats like that. So when you say that,
I know I have to keep reminding you of your record.
I'm so sorry. I focus on one game, one pitch. And so when you say these staggering stats, I'm like, goodness gracious, that's impressive. But it's a testament to their dedication. They work hard, whether it's defensively or offensively. They work hard to be sound in their game, and that's proof.
Delaney, what's your reaction to that 39-3 differential in the playoffs?
I didn't know that.
You know it now.
Hearing it is just crazy. I mean, we work hard. We do. We work every single day, outside of school, inside of school, practice, everything. We have to go to school, practice, and even outside reps that definitely contribute to that stat.
Okay, and then I want to ask you, just because I've had several of your teammates on this podcast and was asking them, so just tell us about overall how your season has been going and maybe where things you're still trying to challenge yourself to get better at. Just give us kind of a quick synopsis of how things have been going for you this spring.
This season, I know my job. I'm batting second in the order, so Addie Perry, our leadoff, she normally gets on base, and so then I know my job going up is to move her over either with a sac bunt or a sac fly or anything, just to move her, and sometimes those work and I get hits out of them, so it definitely helps. But moving her is my main goal, so that's mainly what I've been focusing on this year is giving myself up for my teammates to move them in scoring position to know that the rest of my lineup can score them.
Yeah, and giving yourself up literally because you lead this team with 18 by being hit 18 pitches, being hit by that. By the way, she's hitting 360, 2 home runs, 24 RBIs. She's scored 36 runs, but 18 hit by pitches. That's unbelievable. Are you just tell us about how that is? Are you crowding the plate and so you don't give them much of the inside corner, or how has that come about this year?
I don't really know. I've always gotten hit. I don't know if it's necessarily that I crowd the plate. I definitely toe the line a little bit, but I just don't move out of the way too. I'll let it hit me. I know that's an on-base percentage, and then I trust the rest of my lineup to get me in. So I'll let it hit me so that I can score.
Okay, and so because of the fact that you have such a great lineup up and down, 1 through 9, but you have Kylie Pollock hitting behind you. I mean, what does that do for you in terms of, I would imagine too, when you have somebody like that hitting behind you, you're going to get some pretty good pitches to hit too.
Definitely.
Tell us about that.
Well, let's see. When she goes up to bat, and if I'm on base, I know that she will score me or she will move me. Like, I trust in her either with a sac fly or anything that she will do. She will move me over. And, like, I have full trust in her that when I'm on base that I need to get on my horse because I know I'm going to have to run in and go score. So I just know she can do it. We all have trust in all of our teammates, but Kylie's definitely that one person that I can always trust in. If I did my job moving Addie over, then I know that I did my job so that Kylie can score.
But what does it mean for you offensively when you're at the plate and everyone knows that Kylie's in the on-deck circle there? Because the protection that you get in the order, the quality of pitches you see at the plate, how has that changed? And what kind of, I mean, if you're hitting 360, obviously it's meant a lot, but what have you seen mostly in terms of taking advantage of that? And are they trying to throw you a lot of fastballs because they're trying to get you out, or what have you seen?
Mainly, I've seen we just have to have a lot of discipline because they will throw us some junk that they want us to chase. But knowing that Kylie's going to be up in the order, they're going to try to get me out. They will try to get me out so that they can have Kylie up. And so in that situation, if I get out, then they could be in a 2-out situation, having Kylie up to bat, which will just be a little easier for them. So in that case, I know that I have to be disciplined and then hunt my pitch.
Okay. By the way, any of the 18 hit by pitches, do we have the signature bruise that's come from any of those or not?
Definitely. Right on my thigh. I have a huge bruise every week.
Okay, now I've delayed this long enough because here we go with Birdville. When these playoffs started, I think everybody felt like you two were on this collision course. So here we are. Overall thoughts about playing a series like this against this team where, you faced them last year, but we'll get to that here in a second. But just an overall sense of getting ready to play this state quarterfinal matchup.
I'm excited. They're going to be very competitive. It's better pitching than what we've been seeing. So I feel like the fact that we finally won a flip and we get to see it twice.
It's a miracle.
I know, it's a miracle. It actually is. But seeing her pitch, she's their only pitcher that they throw. So seeing her twice, I think that's going to help our hitters. Now, obviously we're disciplined and we do well, but getting to see that type of pitching where she moves it in and out a lot, she will go up. She does have a good off-speed pitch. I mean, it's what we need to see.
Yeah, I would imagine too.
I'm excited.
But the one thing too is that maybe where the advantage, I'm sure you'd like to hope that you have the advantage, is the depth in your starting pitching too, because of, obviously with what you get out of, with Taylor, and then of course with Tempe right behind her, that sort of thing. But you can go 4 deep with this staff.
Yes, we can. We are very blessed with a talented pitching staff. I mean, a lot of people, they know Taylor, they know Tempe, but they don't know Riley, they don't know Lily, and they are just as talented. So it's, like we have a lot of things that we can do with our pitching staff that other people can't, and we can keep hitters off balance. Even if we want to throw somebody out there for 3 outs, it's keeping them off bases, you know what I mean? Like, so we have a lot of depth and a lot of things we can do to mix it up and really throw hitters off. So that's exciting too.
And then what about for you, Delaney? I'm sure obviously you all needed to focus on taking care of business against Colleyville Heritage, then Burleson, then Amarillo. But I have to think that maybe there was just this part of you that was kind of peeking down the road saying, we're probably going to see these guys if we keep doing what we're doing. Fair to say?
Definitely. We were all looking at the bracket, looking who we would see to see if we could go to state semis and who that matchup would be. We saw that Birdville was going to be playing Burleson Centennial, and we'd played them both last year, and so it was going to be a good matchup once we finally got past the next few rounds. So I was definitely excited to see them. Okay, so let's talk about last year. You saw them in the area round last year. You won 3-2 in 11 innings. What do you remember about that game? I'll start with you on this, Delaney. Definitely that game was a little stressful, a little bit. 11 innings.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, mainly that game, it was tough. We had the first few at-bats, we definitely struggled at the plate. Once we saw her again, we came up to bat. I remember I had a triple, and so then I came back, and then Anna was behind me, and then she hit a triple. So we got those runs scored on the board. And going on defense, like Birdville, we shut them down. Our pitchers did. They shut them down. So our job on offense was just to hit the ball and get some balls in play. And we squared up the ball pretty much, but manufacturing runs was definitely tough for those first few innings. And then we got down to the 7th inning, and they ended up scoring it, tying it up. So then we had to go do our job and get some runs. It was definitely stressful, but we did it.
And it's stressful for players, but how about stressful for coaches when you're probably pacing up and down at the dugout like that?
I will say that I wanted to throw up the entire game. It was nauseating. But calling those pitches, because you study hitters and you expect certain things, and then, pitchers execute and all these things, and there's an expectation, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So it's really, when you're sitting there looking at a swing, trying to break it apart, it can be very mentally taxing. So I was stressed out through that game. But I mean, looking back, I looked at stats today over that game because that's just who I am. And I know you think I don't look at stats, but I do all the time.
It's quoting them. That's another story.
I can't quote them. I can't remember, except for from last year.
Right.
But Taylor pitched 5 innings. So she pitched the first 5 innings, and she gave up 2 hits. And one of those hits was in the first inning. And then after that, she shut him down. So, I mean, there's a lot, and Taylor's just gotten better. And so she was phenomenal last year. She's even better this year. So, I mean, I'm pretty excited. I know I keep saying that, but, I mean, it's true. I'm excited. I'm nervous. But I think it's going to be a good show of who we are as a team.
And are they returning quite a number of players from last year's game? Birdville, I'm referring to.
Everybody.
Okay. So, and you are too, in quite a bit.
For the
too.
most part.
Yeah. And so when you have when you have that kind of collision course where everybody's familiar with, that brings me to my next question, and that might be because of circumstances, the way you schedule, but I didn't see you play them in the non-district schedule. Was that by design because of what you thought, and maybe there's a chance we're going to see them somewhere in the playoffs, and maybe this weekend or something like that? Or do coaches kind of think about that sort of thing, especially when they know what kind of teams they have? Like, I don't want to see this team early in the season because I don't want to have any kind of preconceived notions as to who they are versus what we're going to see for the first time when we see them this coming Thursday.
For sure. I try to schedule a lot of 6A teams in preseason anyway to help prepare us, but I don't want to see somebody I could see deep in playoffs, number one. I don't want them to have any knowledge of my hitters firsthand. They can watch all the film they want, but it's different whenever you know it when you've played it. So I try not to do that as much as I can. With tournaments, you really can't do that. I mean, you can specify things, but for the most part, I say, give me all 6A good teams. Okay,
gotcha on that. Delaney, it would be great to win blowout games and keep playing like this. That doesn't seem to be like that's going to be reality here, especially as good as Birdville is. Again, they're 30-4, and Aledo is 28-3. But I think because of the fact that you all saw them last year, you're familiar with them. Tell me about the excitement, kind of the things that Coach Myers talked about. The opportunity to play in a series like this where there's so much on the line. It's kind of like, to use a phrase, people talk about pressure, but then I've heard a lot of athletes use the phrase, pressure is a privilege. So talk about this opportunity this week.
It definitely gives us a lot of adrenaline going in. We've seen them before. We know what to expect. Like, we're going in with knowing exactly what they have. We've seen them last year. We know how to adjust. And really, like, we can always throw different stuff at them that they didn't see last year. We have so much in pitching, like we were saying earlier, we have so much pitching that we can throw at them that they really haven't seen. And so I feel like we have the upper hand because we have seen them before, and we can be very disciplined in that. So it's very exciting. And like pressure, yes, pressure's fun because if we win, we're going to the state semis. So it's definitely exciting, but at the same time, there's a little pressure, but we love pressure. We love it.
And Coach Barry was talking about when you get to this point of the year, and again, what you saw, everybody's good. And if you're not on or if you're off here and there for an inning or whatever, that could be the difference in this series. So it's talking about execution, being mentally sharp. How do you define that in your terms? I'll start with you on this, Delaney.
Mentally, that's the game of softball. We all know we have to be really good mentally. The game it's failure. So if you go up your first at bat and you strike out, just know that your team will have your back and build you up so that hopefully you go in that next at bat and you produce at the plate. It's really just a game of failure, and mentality is the main point. You have to be mentally strong going in, and with your teammates, they back you up 100%. If you come in the dugout, you're upset, there will be someone over there talking to you and telling you the pitching that they got so that your next at-bat, it'll help you tremendously.
Got to kind of keep the line moving, so to speak. Coach, what do you want to see from your team this week?
I just want to play our game. Like, don't do anything outside the norm. we know what to do. We know how to execute defensively. We know how to be disciplined at the plate offensively. We know what our pitchers are going to do. We know where those, we know what their swings are going to look like. At least I do. They're going to learn this week.
Right.
And just not to go outside what we normally do. To stay calm, stay focused. Being mentally tough is huge.
Right.
But that's just going back to we are a mature team. We have a lot of experience this deep in playoffs. Not a lot of teams have this experience.
Right.
So we have that advantage. So we need to stay and play our game and not let any outside stressors come in and affect anything.
I guess one thing that I ask you about is playing if it's close games. None of these games that you all have played at, except the 3-0 game against Colleyville Heritage, was close. And they've been involved in a couple of tight games already. They had the dramatic game against Centennial where they won in extra innings there 8-7. They lost the first game of the Abilene series last week before they won the last two. And you guys have been pretty much running roughshod over these teams. So is there anything where you have to just say, look, if it's tight, we have to keep remembering what brought us here, and we can't let, even though we haven't really experienced games in the postseason like Birdville has, we still have to be us?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, we know what it's like to be under pressure. I used to make fun of them because they like to run roll people in the seventh inning. Like, scores look crazy, but they don't look that crazy until you get to the seventh inning. So
right. Except in Iowa Park against Amarillo. But that's another story.
it is what it is. But
right.
They were a different team also. But, I fully anticipate Birdville to give us a great game, but never under any circumstance, any pitch, any moment in the game do I think that our mentality is going to drop to where we feel like we're struggling. Mm-hmm. That can't happen. I don't think that we're going to get there.
What's the difference, I guess? There's a relaxation to some extent, but there's also like you really get to find out who the better team is in a series like this. In a one game where it's obviously these teams know that they're outmatched, and so that's why they go with the one game. But when you go to a series, you really find out who's better. Is that kind of what what you expect to play out here, hopefully in your favor this coming weekend, Delaney?
Definitely. A lot of people, when they want the 3 game, is either that they have stacked pitching, or when we win the draw and we want to see them multiple times because we know they're a good team, but we want to have that upper hand. And just if we clinch the first game, then we know going into the second game that we still have to produce at the plate. It gives us like you said, pressure. It kind of takes off the pressure a little bit. Those 1-game series are definitely a little stressful, so definitely having the 3 game is helpful.
And it's old hat for you guys now, so for all these. And so anyway, so to my far left is Delaney Rosser. She's the junior second baseman, and head coach Heather Myers. Thank you all for being here today, and good luck to you all this week against Birdville. Great matchup between the Lady Cats and the Lady Hawks. And we want to remind you that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And Hiley Mazda, head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for more than 30 years. Next week, these two programs and their head coaches will be right back here to talk about how their playoffs went. We're looking for and hoping for 4 wins between these two teams. Get that number 4, and they're still playing. So 2 wins for softball, 2 wins for baseball, and then we're talking about softball going to the state semifinals, and we're talking about baseball going to the state quarterfinals or the regional championship. And this podcast will last as long as their seasons do. So we hope that's Memorial Day week and into the first week of June, so continued success to them. So for my engineer, Brian Torres, and the Hank FM promotion staff, I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Thank you for being with us each week. We'll talk to you all next week from Blue Rays of New Orleans here in Hudson Oaks for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. With the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 for Blue Rays of New Orleans in Hudson Oaks. It's the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM.